Hi guys, this is Sadaus. I'm bringing you the United States, the US Marine faction deck. It's quite a substantial change from the first beta. Let's see, let's take a look at it. This is actually the faction I've been playing most as. I'm having quite a lot of fun with them actually. They got some problems, but overall they're a pretty cool faction. It's the Command Jeep, just usual, straight from Wii. Then there's the Command Patton. It's not a particularly good vehicle, though I've come to like them simply because they're just a fighting unit, and since Command Jeeps are so fragile and they only cost 100, they both kind of have their uses. Then there's a new cargo truck, so the Americans don't have to rely on HEMTs. Let's see, in terms of recon, there's the LAV. Now I really like this because the Marines really rely on light vehicles and heavy infantry, and this is the perfect example of it. It's very much like the Lukes from the first game. You know, powerful autocannon. In this case, it has a main gun, but it sort of fills that role. Then there's Rangers. Now Rangers have been changed substantially. They were in B. They were anti-air infantry. Now they're dedicated recon. They got pretty decent stats, and they're not that expensive. You can really keep a lot of them. Humvees. Now this is what really makes me feel kind of sad about the deck, is that the Humvees don't have any guns in them. I'm sure there are Humvees in the game which have MGs on the top and maybe a tow jeep, but in the deck at least, the Humvees don't do anything. They're just cannon fodder, which is, I guess that's okay. Then there's the W150-90. This was in Wii. Pretty standard. Personally, I prefer the W150, which had an autocannon. I thought it was a more useful unit. The main gun isn't really that effective, and you really don't want your recon to be out in the open digging it with tanks. I kind of prefer autocannons on my recon personally. Okay, now let's take a look at the infantry. LAV, great. I find it's pretty useful. It reminds me of the Striker. It reminds me of the Martyrs. Just a useful sort of medium. See how much armor it has. Oh, pretty crap armor actually, but it just does the job. It's fast. I mean, road speed 150 kilometers an hour, normal speed 100. That's actually really fast. That's surprisingly fast. Marines. Now this is fantastic. US Marines. If there's one thing I'm gonna build as soon as Wargame Airland Battle comes out, is a Marine faction, but I'm gonna make it good, unlike many of the decks in the second beta. It's a 15-man squad, which you might be thinking, oh, it's pretty massive, but actually a lot of factions, such as the Polish and the couple others, actually have 15-man squads. So they're not the only ones to have that. It's a pretty good unit. It really can. It reminds me of the Panzer Grenadier in a way, because it's a tough unit. It doesn't have any ATGM, and it's actually got pretty bad stats, but it just lasts. It just has that staying power. If you put them in a forest, they'll just stay there, and they won't die that quickly to other infantry. They will die pretty quickly to tank fire, but not to infantry. Then we got the Marines and a Huey, so that gives you some versatility. Huey's okay. It's got miniguns, which is always cool. Personally, I prefer Blackhawk because they're just in the first beta, the Blackhawk with the miniguns would just tear through. I mean, I could see them kill MI Havocs in just no time. This one's got twin miniguns as well, but I think the miniguns have been nerfed substantially from the first beta when they were just too kick-ass. Yeah, look at that. That's some good animation. Turns to the side and fires on the side. That's great. Of course, there's no guy sitting holding the gun, which is kind of weird, but yeah. Then we got Delta Force in a Chinook. Chinook also got miniguns. Delta Force, yeah, definitely one of those kick-ass units in the first game. Nothing could beat them. Well, except for Spetsnaz. That's not destroy any kind of infantry. But so many of my games, I would say at least 25% of my games in Wii were won because of Delta Force going in the back lines to kill command vehicles and artillery. So still similar role. Sadly, their accuracy on their AT launchers really bad. That's really surprisingly bad, and they've only got three heat rockets, so it's not great ATGM, which is unlike Wii. That's a pretty significant change. Delta Force and Wii were actually really tough units that could kill tanks really quickly. And this one, that's a pretty crappy ATGM. That's a pretty crappy AT launcher, really. Guess I'm saying really a lot. Excuse me. And there's the M35, which is just it's a transport truck. It's pretty crappy, just scanning fodder. ATGM Dragon 2. Yep, that was there in the first beta. Let's see where the stats have changed. Stats about the same. I think the HP power might have gone down. And then the Ladstinger. When I've been playing the beta, I've been using the Ladstinger a lot, just as sort of area of denial and just to discourage planes from coming. They don't seem to kill planes all that often unless the plane's right on top of them. And even then, the missiles travel pretty slowly. But they are far more accurate than they were in the first game, and they don't seem to have much veterancy on them. That's 2 points of veterancy. I just wanted to say that's a pretty significant change if you guys have been paying attention to the beta and haven't been paying attention to the Wargame dev forum. They explained how veterancy will work in the original B. You would buy veterancy during the game, and that veterancy would increase the price of the units you would buy, but it would substantially increase the strength of the unit in many cases, increasing the accuracy, morale, so they would take more damage before they would rout. Lots of useful things. But in this game, the price of a Vet 5 command tank, or a Vet 5 Delta Force, or a Vet 5 LAV-25, or a Vet 3 Delta Force, or Vet whatever veterancy, they'll still cost the same. So the price doesn't change, but what does change is the availability. And a lot of people have been talking in the forums about how they're really annoyed that there's really low availability. Well, excuse me, but just that's a pretty easy solution. If you want to build a company that's really large, just take a lot of unvetted units. Then you'll have a ton, except for the fact that they'll be unvetted. So, say you have a Leopard 2A4 that's a Vet 5 going up against, say, a T80U. Ordinarily, it's a pretty even match in most cases, unless the T80U's got a really, the first shot, in which case you'll shoot out that ATGM. But that's beside the point. The point is that the veterancy will give you an edge, and if you're not losing too many things, and depending on the scale of the game, because of how to win in the game you need to get a certain number of points. So there's going to be a delicate balance between getting a large number of low vetted units versus getting a smaller number of higher vetted units, because those higher vetted units may last longer in the field longer. And do you really need that many tanks? Like, would you need 16 Leopard 1A 3s in your company, or could you just instead have 8 Leopard 1A 3s that are Vet 5 instead, and that would be just as good because they would last longer and you're less likely to lose them because of the veterancy. So I could see that being a beautiful way to balance things and a beautiful way to build a company. It's a very elegant solution, I think. I really like it, and it's early days and we haven't even got the ability to build a deck, but I'm really interested in that. Now next, we're going to talk about the tanks. Sadly, the Marines have pretty crappy tanks. In the game, I know for a fact they will not have the Abrams, because the Marines didn't get Abrams. Instead they got Pattons and the M48, and to be honest, they're pretty worthless. I've seen them, I've been playing Soviets a lot, and I've got T80s that I've gotten like 9-10 kills on these guys, and they've not even barely shot at it because they usually get outranged, and they're just really weak, really pathetic. I really don't like using them, but I kind of have to, because what else am I going to use? Sadly, under the vehicles, they have not given me any kind of light vehicles that I can use in large numbers, so I have to come to rely on these pretty crappy tanks for the most part. They're really, you get a lot of them, and that's what I mean by they've only got two stripes of veterancy on them, and they're cheap. But do I really want that? Then they do not do anything, and they usually die. I see the LAVM, some motor carrier. It's decent. It just does what it does, which is being a mortar. It fires pretty fast, I found, especially you get a few of them. But this is where I mean by the deck having problems, is that in this case you get 3 LAVs M's because of the patch they put out. They increased the veterancy on them, I think, or maybe not. Wow, that's a pretty low number. Wow. Well, you don't get many, and that's a problem, because I used to be able to get a lot of mortar carries. In Wii, I used to take maybe 4 to 8 per match, depending on the situation. And having max 3 is just a pain because you don't have that staying power, especially in a fight where you're going up against a lot more support. And I guess that's the thing, when you're playing a deck that someone else made, you don't know what strategies they had in mind, and you build your decks around strategies. And this is not a strategy I like to use. I like to be able to counter what my opponent has, even though I generally have a strategy that I'm going to be proactively applying. Now this is the Avenger. It's basically an AT launcher. It's kind of cool with the little guys in the backseat. I haven't seen that before. It's okay as an anti-air. The Hawk is a much better unit. It's, apart from looking completely kick-ass with these huge missiles, it's based on radar. So some other factions have anti-radar locking planes. So that's interesting because they can just shoot their missiles straight at this thing, even if they don't have line of sight, because it's sort of pinging out a radar in all directions, tracking planes that have radar themselves. So it's a useful unit. I've used it quite a bit, but low, obviously very low missile count 3. So you got to keep this thing with a cargo truck almost immediately. Finally, well, not finally, but there's a Zippo. It's not the M113 Zippo from the previous game. It's a tank Zippo, which is kind of cool. I haven't used it all that. I've used it more as a support tank, not really used it all that much. Just keeping it at the back, letting it use its area of effect damage. And there's the Ontos, which is a unit I've been looking forward to seeing because it just looks completely insane. You don't get many of them, which I found really surprising. But then when you look at it, it's got a lot more accuracy, you know. But even then, you get max 4, which is really surprising. And it's certainly not like the M113 R's Collis rifles from the Wii, where you could just have a ton of them. So let's see how that fires. It just looks fun. It looks so crazy. And there's a tow jeep. You all know what that does. It's a tow jeep. Good old tow jeep. Many a T-80 I've killed with them. And there's the Super Cobra. Pretty decent unit. I've actually seen them do quite a bit of damage to tanks, T-64s, T-70s, T-80s. It's really surprising how much not the tow missile damage does, but the Hydra. The Hydra seems to do a lot of side armor and top penetrations. It's quite a good unit, but it's also really expensive. It's 80 points. Then there's the upgraded Super Cobra, which has anti-air missiles instead of these Hydra missiles, which I actually don't think is a good thing. I've never seen it shoot at a plane, let alone or another chopper. So and you pay a lot for it. It's 140, which is, I think, overpriced for what it is. You get 4 more missiles, I think. No, you get the same number of missiles, same number of tows. Yeah, I don't think it's a very good unit. But, I like the look. That looks pretty cool. Finally, there's a Hawk. Sorry, the Seahawk, and it's basically a Hellfire missile carrier, and that's pretty cool because I like Hellfire missiles. And wow, these helis really have a lot of detail on them. It's really surprising how much detail and how much emphasis they put on the game. Because when I'm usually playing, all I see is this. I just see words and text. And if you guys don't know this, they've made a huge number of changes to the graphical user interface. I think I'll just take a moment to show you guys this. Other people have shown it, but you can just customize it to such an extent. It's incredible. I really love it, and I'm gonna keep changing my HUD until I find one that I really like. I think when I initially tried it, my immediate thing was to make this as small as possible because I just wanted more periphery, and I got rid of many of the other things just to make everything small. But initially I made it too small and I couldn't see anything. But now I'm used to it. And quickly, I think I might be going over time, but talk about the planes. The Tomcat, the plane changes they made are quite significant. Before you would have problems of trying to bring the plane on. It would take forever to come on. Now all you have to do is buy planes by clicking on air. There isn't some separate menu to get planes, and as soon as you click it, it comes into your deck, into your airport panel, and all you have to do is right click it and tell it to come on. And alternatively, you can click all of them all at once and bring them all at once. And rather than the first game where you would click call in and they would come in, but you didn't know which direction they were going to fly. They could fly straight, left, right, anywhere. Now you right click on where they want them to come, and they will come in that specific direction. They won't go off in some other weird direction. Speaking directly about the Tomcat, this is an incredible war machine. It is a absolute beast of a war machine. I have seen it come on field and then immediately shoot at a plane with its missiles that is halfway or almost the whole way across the map, because its missiles are that massively long in range. I mean, I'm just gonna take a look at that. It's just radar locking missiles that have huge range. It's just, and I've seen them take on planes 2, 3 to 1 at a time and just destroy them all. It's incredible. I really love this Tomcat. It's one of the main reasons why I like playing US Marines, even though I dislike the tanks so much, is because this plane will allow you to dominate other factions. The only problem is you don't get that many, so I've seen definitely people spam their planes and try to take your Tomcats out as quickly as possible, and also they're super expensive. They're 140 points, I think. They're really expensive. Could be 160. Finally, the other two planes. There's the Corsair. The Corsair, which drops smoke. Sorry, it doesn't drop smoke. It drops napalm. Let's check that out. On some for infantry, for Marines. Finally, let's bring them all on. Actually, now the strategies that people are coming up with for planes are just incredibly interesting. I've seen people just find out where your artillery is, for example, and just bomb the hell out of it because they know that's where it is, and they don't even use line of sight or anything like that because they don't need to. And the Intruder is a perfect example. They drop these bombs, which do a ton of damage to fobs. Like, look at that fob. 4 direct hits, maybe 4 to 6 direct hits, and it's almost all the way dead. So if you know your enemy is going to spam fobs, what I've been doing is bringing my Tomcat out straight away to take out any kind of recon choppers, then try to get recon myself, or some Hueys with Marines, try to get some line of sight on their fobs, just know where the fobs are, and try to remember where the fobs are, and then get my 2 intruders immediately, come around the flanks, and just go on a bombing run and take out their fobs. And once you take out the fobs, it's going to be much more expensive and much more difficult for them to RD spam, especially with the East Germans who get an MLRS. I think I might have gone into too much detail there. In any case, let's finally see the last of the intruders on this fob. Because you only need 2. That's all you need. You only need 2 intruders to drop their payloads, and for the majority of their payloads to fall on the fob, so you kind of need to be accurate. And bang, fob's gone. Snap. But they kind of need to hit the fobs. If you hit it around the fobs, the area of effect isn't really that strong. Anyway, guys, it's been Stars. I don't know if I'm going to make any other videos. I'll probably see as it comes. I'm kind of busy right now with uni and other things. But guys, definitely check out this beta. Just watch some videos, and if you haven't pre-ordered Wargame Airland Battle, please go out and do it. It's such a fantastic game, even from this beta. And if you own Wargame European Escalation, they are selling it at 25% off, which I think is incredibly nice of them to do. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, it's the same units, but no, it's not. The game feels completely different. Like, the mechanics feel completely different. I don't know. It doesn't feel like the same game. It just feels so completely different in so many ways. It's not really comparable, and I'm just so impressed by Fusion Entertainment and Focus Interactive for releasing this incredibly strong product, and they've really shown their appreciation for Wii and Airland Battle, and for the community. Thank you guys, peace out.